Hi, everyone. Welcome to 2 to 20, the podcast that empowers women to build, fund, and scale their businesses. I'm your co-host, Julia Belt, and I'm here today with Mariam Khayretdinova, the co-founder and CEO of Brainify AI, which is a startup revolutionizing precision psychiatry, leveraging AI to read, decode, and categorize brain scans. So, Mariam, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, happy to be here.
Amazing. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so impressed by you. When we met, I was just instantly like, oh my gosh, I need to interview this girl. And she's so impressive. So if you could just share a little bit about your background and maybe your journey into entrepreneurship.
Oh, sure. First of all, thank you for kind words. They're too kind. My background is a little bit weird because I started as applied mathematician. That was my first degree, but literally I got bored in the second year of my school. So I decided to combine it with work, and I've been working as a data analyst, then as a business consultant in a large corporation such as Coca-Cola or Unilever. And then I ended up being in tech, building a lot of software, developed a bunch of software as a PM, project manager, and integrating it in investment banking. And then I graduated and continued my journey in tech. So after that, I joined startup after 11 years in tech, almost 11. And I started working for a bright box company. So I learned a little bit about the startup world. We had an exit. It was quite a successful startup. And after an exit, I had enough capital to do something for fun. And my fun was getting second master's degree. So I decided like, okay, I really would like to learn more about the most beautiful computer in the world, which is human brain. So I went to Harvard. And at Harvard, I got my second master's in psychology. And I stayed there as a researcher because I met an amazing professor during the classes. She invited me to her lab. We started doing research together. And actually, during this research experience, we were working on the sex difference in mental health. We were studying how estrogen impacts mental health. I bumped into a lot of problems related to the subjective nature of the psychiatry and the questionnaires, which was so uncomfortable. And imagine me being a mathematician. I love numbers. I love when everything can be measured and calculated. Then coming from tech, I like when everything can be automated. And I come to the world where none of this exists. And you're just basically asking people, do you feel depressed or not? And based on that, you're trying to treat them. You try to prescribe them medication, which actually significantly alter their mind. So I thought, why not to combine mathematics, neuroscience, and a great tech together and do something about that? So that's how idea of my current company, Brainify AI, was born. And I ended up where I ended up.
Yeah. I mean, for anyone, I'm a huge mental health advocate. And for anyone out there that has not been to a psychiatrist or a mental health professional, the process is pretty antiquated. And as Miriam mentioned, there's questionnaires. There's one called the PHQ-9 that measures basically depression risk. And, something that we've talked about, Miriam, before is when you go to a psychiatrist, you and I both could have high scores on these depression scales, but our root cause could be completely different. And oftentimes the medications prescribed are the same for both you and I, even though the root cause is different.
Yeah.
And so I'm so excited about the work that you're doing because it's really making mental health not in the gray zone. It's making it very analytical and science-based. And so I'm very excited about all of it. And congratulations just on what you've built. I read on your website that you have 30 billion training data points. Could you share a little bit more about, what it was like to get that data? I know you work with a lot of clinicians.
It's the most complicated part when it comes to AI is to collect the data. So the second more complicated part is to collect data of the good quality. So unfortunately, we bumped in the situation where we were not able to find any data sets larger than, let's say, several hundreds of records. And then if you start looking at them, they're all labeled kind of not in a good way. There is a lot of mistakes, mislabels. Then we realized that a lot of noise in all the recordings. And like I want to specify here that we work with EEG, it's electroencephalography. This is a brainwave activity signal. So it's basically like a bunch of electrodes attached to your scalp, which record your electrical activity of the cortex. And due to the nature of the signal, it's very noisy because, as you can imagine, a lot of wavy type factors can actually impact this electrical signal, no matter how great the amplifier that you're using. So the first approach was to work with research institutions. So we reached out to them, begging them for data. And honestly, it was the story when we was just like knocking into the doors and telling them, hey guys, do you have something for the research? And on a very different condition, someone was open to that, someone was not. We somehow maybe collected just several thousands of the patients, which was enough for us to do a proof of concept. After that, we started collaborating with clinics because we realized that there were a lot of experimental institutions who was looking for solutions like ours. And some of them used EEG. So they shared this data with us in order to us to find something. And then finally, we ended up, and we're working right now on that, and building the whole ecosystem where we can provide easy to read, accessible readings of the EEG, but at the same time, collect data from the patients who are forced willing to share them and increase the data set, which can be used for training and make it like harmonized on the one type of data, like systematically organized, which is the most complicated part. At the same time, another thing that we're doing, we've built an algorithm which is learned to work with data coming from the different devices, because it's like a very complicated thing because there is so many different amplifiers. All of them bring their own noise. So it's for machine learning, it's easier to recognize from what device the data coming from rather than from what patient's data coming from. So that's how noisy it is. And we spent several years just building the specific algorithms which can standardize the whole like data coming from the different type of sources.
That's truly incredible. Yeah, truly incredible. And if you are out there listening and you're working in AI, you know that data quality is king. And for anyone, just experiencing any mental health challenges, imagine going to your provider and getting a brain scan. And because of the work that Mariam and Brainify AI is doing, you'll get a personalized training plan based on this scan of your brain. Is that the ultimate goal? I know that you're also working with some pharma companies. And so, yeah, just any more to share about that?
Yeah, absolutely right. The final goal is to actually that the patient comes to the doctor and the doctor looks at their brain and says, hey, you know what? This is a medication that would help you the best. Because right now we all know how it works. You just come there, they talk into you 15 to 20 minutes. In most of the cases, it's GP, general practitioner. Then they like look at you and say, you're probably depressed. So here is a Zoloft. Mm-hmm. And then patient response less than 30% of the cases. That's a response rate for the SSRIs. And they have to try, in average, 4 to 5 medications. They switch them from 2 to 8 weeks. So basically, it takes them up to a year to finally find something that works. But in most of the cases, if they didn't respond to 3 medications, they're considered to be treatment resistant, meaning that there is nothing that can help them. Well, there are some new solutions for treatment resistant depression, which also doesn't have like perfect response rate, but still. So the ultimate goal, as you mentioned, was just to navigate the treatment process that we can answer to the question what actually will help the patient as soon as possible. But we ended up working with pharma because, first of all, it is really hard to integrate any diagnostic tool in the US healthcare system. Doctors are already overloaded. And also it's really hard to get a reimbursement code or like build anything that will reimburse this process. especially when the medications, mostly generics out there, which cost several dollars. So like none of the players are actually interested in making psychiatry precise. Like, what the point? We just spend a couple of dollars for generic SSRIs and SNRIs and whatever. A patient can stay with them like for years. But another player who actually suffers from not knowing what depression is pharma company. If you will take a look at the market, there are just few antidepressants that have been approved for the last 20 years, which is nothing. The success rate in the clinical trial is less than 20%, which is horrible. It's worse than oncology. And the reason behind that, as you mentioned, is symptoms are the same, but biology is different. So basically, we're suffering with that. And the third reason which pharma have, if you even develop the drug, for some reason you ended up with a miracle drug, you succeed in the clinical trials, you beat the very high placebo effect, which is over 40% placebo effect, which is higher than the effect rate of successful antidepressants on the market. So for some reason, you bet up like as a placebo response and you brought this drug to the market. And then you're dealing with the following, like how can you motivate to reimburse your expensive drug, and it will be expensive because it's just right after the clinical trials. They spend a lot of money to build it, to pass these clinical trials, instead of not just prescribing like few bucks cost SSRIs. There is nothing, because like still you're depressed, it's still prescribed for the same depression, and then basically like doctor will say the same as usual, try SSRIs first. If it will not work, maybe you will try another one, then another one, and then let's go and prescribe you new medication, right? So you need to find a way to cut the path and get as soon as possible to a patient. And the only way how you can do this is through the biological test, which will tell you that this specific patient will feel better after this specific medication. This model called companion diagnostic, it has been already integrated in the oncology market. It's slowly getting into neurodegenerative disorders right now. And I hope eventually we will see something like that in psychiatry. So when pharma company introduce a novel medication, it's just not a medication alone. It comes together with a test which identifies the patient for whom this medication will work. And that's a win-win situation. And for the patient and for the pharma, the drug is effective because it's prescribed to the people for whom it actually works. It helps them to get as soon as possible to the patients. And for patients as well, they don't need to suffer trying a bunch of medications out there. They can finally get to something that will work, or keep a bunch of different like trial and errors.
Yeah, I'm nodding my head profusely because I was that patient. I went through several iterations of this whole trial and error with my psychiatrist, who was doing the best that they could to help me. But these medications, often it takes weeks for you to understand if they're being effective or not. And then if they're not, there's slight adjustments or trying a different one. And you can't just cold turkey stop them. You have to wean yourself off. So I'm very excited, just as someone who has gone through this journey, to know that there's a potential out there, that when I go to my psychiatrist, they're given all the tools that they need to be successful in prescribing the exact right medication for my biology. And so I feel like we could talk about this all day, but I do want to switch gears a bit in terms of like the startup journey. So, I believe that grit and resilience personally are two qualities that every entrepreneur needs to have. And it's no easy feat breaking into healthcare. And it feels like you basically fought your way in and you've had so much success. So I would love to hear a little bit more about that. Maybe you could touch on some of the programs you went through, like the J&J Innovation Lab or Microsoft for Startups. Like how was that? Was that the key to unlocking some of these communities, or what was it?
Yes. So I guess the key is a support, any kind of support. And when it comes to the healthcare, you need to understand that it's very slow, hard to move ecosystem of a lot of players, including insurance companies, including pharma companies, including government, research institutions, and major clinics. And it's not an easy machine to move. So you really need support. And it's really crazy to try to find and go against the system. It's not the type of industry where you want to do that. So you need to find allies. And these allies should be powerful. These allies really need to know what's going on. And in my case, I was lucky enough to have as an ally Harvard Innovation Lab. So Harvard Innovation Lab was the first who opened the doors for me, who was very supportive. They do have programs for the alumni and the students where they actually help you to identify your product market fit, to get in the market, to understand what is a startup. But for me, the most important parts were first, support system. So you always have people with more experience than you who can talk to you, with whom you can share all your problems and sometimes just chat. And the second thing, they provide you a lot of experts from different industries. So that opened for me doors to actually people, decision makers in pharma companies. And if they even it's not even about, for example, making a deal or sales, but at least you can sit with someone who actually designs these clinical trials, or who actually works on a drug development process or sales a drug, who can sit with you and tell you, no, Mariam, that's not how it works. It works that and that and that way. But no worries, I will introduce you to other people. So this is the crucial thing. If you have access to any societies like that, use them. That's the only advice that I can give. And actually the Harvard Innovation Lab, due to a lot of other exposure to tools that they had internal competition called President Innovation Challenge, where I had chance to be a finalist. And it had quite an exposure among different players in the healthcare field. Also, it's opened me doors for a TEDx talk. And then it was easier for me to get in touch with more precise accelerated programs. So in that case, I want to mention Johnson & Johnson Innovation Labs. I want to mention here Merck Digital Science Studio, amazing guys. And there is a lot of others, but I am particularly a part or alumni of these two. Microsoft Startup also helps a lot for the AI. They have a lot of programs for those who are looking, let's say, for two things: computational power and on the architectural solutions. If you new to tech or new to AI, they can give you enough expertise or people who can sit and think of you what is the best way to organize your internal technology and integrate modern tools. So yeah, that's in short. And I think you need to use them because again, when we're in healthcare, we really need to know who make a decision. We really need to know who to approach, and we really need to know what is the motivation of all the players. And the only reason to do that is just get connected and close as possible to those players.
Yeah, that support and finding those allies is so important, I think, for any industry, especially healthcare, because it is so hard to break it into. But really just any startup though, that it can feel very lonely as a founder. And so having that support system and being able to, build out your community, build out your advisory board, et cetera, is so important. I would love to switch gears just a bit about fundraising, because the purpose of this podcast is really to provide education and kind of open the door for some female founders that are interested in, really building their businesses from the ground up. And as we know, only 2% of VC funding goes to female founders. And so I'd love to just, if you could briefly touch on your fundraising journey. I know that you had such a successful exit, which enabled you to start, Brainify AI you're in a different position than someone, just starting founding.
We need to be honest here. Fundraising is horrible. And I personally very bad at fundraising. I'll be honest.
I find that very hard to believe. But is it that, or is it just that the odds are stacked against you? You know what I mean?
I wish I could separate.
I mean? Yeah.
I wish I can separate one from another, but I want to be honest with you. I'm not good at fundraising. I can tell what struggles I have. Probably someone can then comment me answers on what to deal with that. But first of all, I was in a better position than others. Me and my co-founder, we had a chance to self-fund the company in the beginning. So we were not like in the zero place at the moment when we started. We had some funds. We decided to put our own skin in the game. And okay, let's use our money to just validate if their market, if their opportunity, is this technology even can exist. So that's a huge difference, because in the most of the cases, you literally come in with the idea and begging people for money. The second difference that I had, like most of the angels who supported me in the beginning were the one who knew our previous company and who literally vouched for not even me, but my co-founder. Because my co-founder was the CEO of this previous company. So that's another thing that we need to keep in mind. And then the fundraising process started. So one of the ways to fundraise is through the accelerators, because these accelerators that we were talking about, they actually are connected to investors. Some of them, like MDSS, for example, invest themselves. That's how I get like funding from very big names, including Merck. And the good thing that they literally do in the due diligence for other investors. So investors usually approach you like, okay, if you are the part of this specific accelerator, that means that these guys already dive in, they knew your model, they did all the dirty work for me, so it just can't just casually talk to you. But even this didn't make the fundraising process any easier. I'll be honest.
Hard.
So it is, especially like, okay, if you a healthcare solution that can generate revenue like that. But if you are a deep tech healthcare solution like ours, right now, no one want to risk. The market is crazy. Everyone want to see revenue. Some of the investors get response to me like, okay, you need to sign 2 contracts with large pharma companies and have $10 million revenue so I can invest $500,000 seed in you. I was like,
no.
Why do I even need your money then? Yeah. Like that's literally response that I have in writing in my emails. And I have a bunch of like that. So I wish I can tell you the way how to fundraise. Just talk to people. Like, I don't know. I approached 100 investors, 150 investors, and I'm still struggling. Like with some of them, before getting check from them, I had to spend almost 2 years having breakfast and lunches.
The relationship.
Yes. And like, I'll be honest, I had zero relationship with the large VCs here. So for me, it was everything from the beginning. Yeah. And it is hard.
I think though, something that I want to highlight is that, because I think a lot of people hear how hard it is. I know I'm one of them, and sometimes it can be overwhelming, but you never gave up. Like you continue to apply to these accelerator programs, you continue to pursue your business. Like you have this deep why and this deep knowing that this is going to be successful. And you're not listening to these investors saying that you need to like prove way beyond these standards that, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say, like sometimes our male counterparts have to do to get the investment. And that resilience is so incredible. So I just want to make sure
Thank you.
I'm highlighting
Thank you.
that.
But honestly, it's not true to say that I didn't give up. I very often want to give up. I'm very often saying to myself, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. The most important thing that I learned that you need to be surrounded by people who believe in you, who believe in work that you do. And in the case when you like, and I'm like emotional person, when you're sitting and crying and saying that you are done, you have that one angel investor who you can call and who will tell you, Mariam, I've done many companies and I know how hard it is right now in this market, but I'm here with you and you're actually doing great. And I do not allow you to close this company and stop trying. And you really need to have someone like that. And I'm really lucky that one of my angel investors are like that, who support me all along the way, and they talk to me. The same my advisors, sometimes you sound like crazy person. You can't like to yourself. And especially after you're meeting with several investors who are telling you that you are crazy, that it's not possible, that who do you think you are? You don't know anything about the science. And like many, 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 many things, after which you are just coming home and thinking maybe they are right. And then you're talking to your scientific advisors, for example, who like been doing the science for 20 years and like nominated to a lot of awards, and who are saying, no, Mary, trust me, we've been there, it's going to work, it's okay, yes, it's tough. Or you talk to someone from pharma who actually doing that and who's saying, no, we really need the solution. But the only way to stay there, just have people you trust and have people who can tell you what is wrong, what is right, and be there for you, because it's very often when you want to give up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I so appreciate your vulnerability and transparency, because I've been there so many times too, where it's like, I'm just done. Like I really believe in this, but I feel so it is just such a test to your mental strength and being able to like filter out all of the noise and just have really strong partners or advisors, or like you said, angel investors, or even friends and family that are seeing you do the work day in and day out. These investors meeting with you for 30 minutes, sometimes even less than that, don't see the full picture. And so it is hard though to feel like I've gotten comments like, don't take it personally. It's like, how can I not take it personally? Like when you're you're just cutting into like my entire life's work, even though I have
it's literally like if you're coming, if you're coming with your baby and someone says that your baby's ugly, and you're like, wait a second, what? And you're a horrible mother. That's how you like receive that. Like it's impossible not to take it personally. Of course, like the skin is getting like thicker, and then you started researching who was the person you're talking to, how, like, did they build any businesses? Do they have as an investor any successful exits, like, et cetera, et cetera. So you're trying to learn about them, because very often it's some kind of associates who just graduated from the business school who didn't see any interesting cases, but they think that they're the most important person in the world, and they're a little bit arrogant, and they're the one who are like super harsh people usually. But
well, I think that's amazing advice for anyone out there just trying to make it through and doubting themselves and thinking that no other founders are experiencing that. Like we're all experiencing it. And so just find a person that you trust that has knowledge in the industry that you're building in, has experience building a business. Like that was great advice. Someone told me, like, don't take advice from anyone that hasn't founded a company, because they literally have no idea like what it goes into it. So, okay, now to end it, we do this like I usually do this like rapid fire fun question round. And so they're fun. So any favorite books that you have, whether business or personal?
Oh my God, favorite books. It will be, oh, I know. It's probably called Educated. Yes, that's how it's called in English, The Educated. It was a recent book published like several years ago about the girl who wasn't from a religious family. Really strongly recommend to read. It's just her one and only autobiography. Yeah.
Okay, I'm adding it to my list. Okay, coffee or tea?
Morning coffee, evening tea with milk.
Love it. Any favorite AI tools that you use for your actual business? So like not your product. Like what do you use any?
ChatGPT is my best friend.
Okay. I know some people use, I was using Claude for a while, which I do love, but ChatGPT I feel like was actually a little bit better of an experience. So I switched. Okay. Your favorite way to celebrate wins, big or small? Like, do you go out to eat? Do you go for a walk? Like, what do you do?
I just do like this, yay, and continue to work.
I love it. Okay, so you don't do it. Okay, well, I think that the next win, you need to call me and we'll go out and celebrate.
Yeah, my psychotherapist says the same, that I need to learn how to celebrate stuff. Yeah,
so important. Okay, and then do you have like a favorite quote or a mantra or an affirmation that gets you through tough times?
Oh my God, what a complicated question. Could you send them ahead?
I know it's fun to like get people on the spot though. Any like mantra or just something that you say to yourself? If not, we can.
Well, I have several phrases. So one of the phrases that people are making mistakes around me, especially if they're like people who are just in supporting roles. I'm saying they are in the supporting roles because they're making these mistakes. Yes, and the second thing that I'm saying, like, that's you always need to aim to the moon to end up somewhere among the stars.
I love that. Okay, there you go. See, you had it. You had it in you. Well, Thank you so much. The last thing I'll just say, where can people find you? I know that you're on LinkedIn, which we can link in the show notes. Any other places?
Everywhere, LinkedIn and Instagram, or just Google my name and you will see like all the links how to find me. Yeah, but
And
LinkedIn
everyone
probably
listen
the
to
best
her
way.
TED Talk. It's
Oh
so
yes,
good.
please listen to my TED Talk. Yeah, I'm really trying to get more views there.
Remind me of the title so people can type it in.
Something about decoding depression. But definitely these two words are there. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Mariam. It was so great to chat with you. Thank you for all of your amazing advice. And everyone listening, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for having me here, and have a good one.